I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sean Parker, who is here for us today to do a musical performance. Sean is a Baton Rouge native, a graduate of Runnels High School. He represents the Emory Scholars Program as a cellist in the Emory University Symphony Orchestra. He was awarded the Robert W. Woodruff Music Scholarship for cello at Emory. He's performed at Carnegie Hall with the Honors Performance Series as an 8th grader, a member of the All-Star and All-Parish Orchestras here in our fair area. During his 4 years of high school, he was a recipient of Louisiana Music Educators Association Academic All-Star Award, and he was a student of Rebecca Tadero, who taught at Runnels High School. She's also in the Baton Rouge Symphony Orchestra. She has also played harp in our galleries on a couple of occasions. He joins us, I guess, from Tennessee by way of Emory University, where he's double majoring in biology and music. His anticipation graduation is 2023, and he's going to play Bach's Cello Suite number 1 for our enjoyment today. So Sean, turn it over to you, and thank you for joining us from afar. I hope people enjoy this entertaining music as we begin the annual meeting.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I could be a part of the meeting for the museum. So I'll be playing, like you said, the first suite by Bach.
To 5:30 is music. Come on in, check it out.
If you are online and not playing
Okay, I want to welcome everybody to,
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
thank you so much. I'm Steve Heymsfield, the chair of the Museum's Advisory Board, and I want to welcome everybody to the annual meeting. And I also want to thank Sean for that virtuoso performance. Sean, that was fantastic. And it's really symbolic of the kinds of artistic skill that the museum can bring in for all of us to enjoy. And I want to also remind people at the end, we're going to hear from Baton Rouge Poet Laureate Christian Davenport. So stay on. John, thanks.
Thank you.
I also want to extend my thanks to Zoom, who has made this whole thing possible. Who would have ever dreamed a year ago that our annual meeting would be in this format? I want to welcome our supporters, our members, our board who's on the meeting tonight, and our staff who's done a really remarkable job keeping things going during the pandemic. And with that in mind, I'd like to turn it over to John Everett, who's going to bring us the minutes from the August 8th on 2019 meeting. John?
Yeah, so earlier today, I believe Becky sent out a copy of the minutes from the August 8th, 2019 annual meeting. And I hope you've had an opportunity to review those. And if you have, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from last year's annual meeting.
Okay, someone like,
Oh, can you hear me, Stephen?
This is Margaret, so moved.
Oh,
would someone like to second it?
thank you, Moach.
This is Jerry, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor say aye. If I don't hear anything, I'll assume you approve the minutes.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks very much. John, do you want to go on and give us the financial update?
I'm very pleased with the revenues through June 2020. Income was slightly behind budget. However, expenses were less than expected. And at the end of the day, the museum enjoyed a slight surplus of $10,078. There's good news on the financial front for the museum. The revenues exceeded expectations, or didn't exceed expectations, but they were very good. Expenses are less than budgeted, and as a result, the museum enjoyed a small surplus for the year, as opposed to what was budgeted, which was a small deficit. At the end of the day, the total income enjoyed by the museum was $2,225,803.04. Everything was in line. Earned revenues were down a bit simply because the museum store was closed and rentals were down. Contributed revenues. We got two large contributions in the last quarter. One for education and exhibitions and one for the purchase of art. And that's why that is a bit above the budgeted number to the tune of $16,151.70. And finally, last month, the museum was awarded two grants, one from the Louisiana Endowment of the Humanities for $12,000 and one from Art Bridges for $20,000. Both of those were related to COVID-19. And as a result, we really closed the gap in terms of income. Expenses were lower than anticipated, and they came in at totaling $2,215,724.31. They were $52,000 below budget. And really, a lot of that had to do with exhibitions, education, and public programming, simply because installation costs and teaching supplies were under budget. There was also a gallery guide that was budgeted but not produced. In addition, development and public relations was down under budget about $24,000. A lot of that had to do with travel, printing, and postage that came in under budget. And as a result, expenses were down $52,000, as I said, and the museum enjoyed a surplus of $10,078.73 against a budgeted deficit of $2,153.46, which is quite remarkable given the environment. And it's a job well done and expenses well managed in the current environment.
John, would you call for a motion, please?
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the annual meeting 2020?
The financial report.
Correct.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as read by Mr. John Everett.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
And if all those in favor of accepting the financial report would say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved.
Good job.
One thing that I would like to mention is just a thank you to the campus. We did have some deficits in those earned income areas that you referenced, and working with the provost office and the campus, there was support in those areas, and it really helped us a great deal. Additionally, just staff did a tremendous job in controlling costs to get through this tough period that we've been going through. Nedra, I think you can move the slide forward, and Stephen, you can, I think you're next actually, I think, Stephen, again, for comments. Stephen?
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Just want to point out that the budget being in good shape was not an accident. There are a lot of people who contributed to making that budget work, and I want to thank Daniel and his staff for doing that. I know there were a lot of moving parts, and it's a very difficult year. I want to remind people that the museum now is having its 15th anniversary at the Shaw Center. And just as a reminder, for those of you who don't know the history, the museum was founded in 1959, and it opened its doors to the public in 1962 in the Memorial Tower, and it sat there for 43 years. 1959, you think about that a little bit, Dwight Eisenhower was president, and John Kennedy followed him when the museum actually opened to the public. So it's a long time ago, very culturally different. And the museum was characterized by what we would call a neo-colonial type of art. It favored European art, particularly British art. And after it moved in 2005 to the Shaw Center, the space expanded. The museum was in the middle of Baton Rouge, and it changed its character. It decolonized, and it became much more diverse and inclusive. And as you see today, it's a very socially conscious museum. It's the major art museum for Baton Rouge. And the kinds of things the museum does, particularly in this pandemic, it supports education. We know how difficult education is right now. We're in the middle of thinking about schools reopening. It promotes culture and the human experience. And you're going to hear much more about that in Daniel's presentation. And it gives back to the community in many different ways. And one of the important things I want to emphasize is that the museum is safe to visit now. We are open, we have visitors coming through, and that's a major development and one that we're very proud of. On the other hand, COVID-19 pandemic wreaks havoc on museums across the world. May 18th was International Museum Day, and the UN Cultural Agency at the time said that 90% of the cultural institutions had to close their doors during the pandemic, and almost 13% were a serious risk of not opening again. And that just brings home the idea that the museum really needs our support, the community support, and the university support. The museum needs sustainability. I don't have to tell people that. And so please continue to support the museum as you have. So those are my brief opening remarks. And I'd like to now turn the program over to Margaret Benjamin, who's going to talk about recognition of the offices, the advisory board. Margaret?
Thank you, Stephen. Would you like to recognize your committee chairs, or would you like to do that after?
I'll do that after.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's present. And on behalf of the Nominations Board Management Committee and my co-chair, Nancy Doherty, we are pleased to present to you the report of the Nominations Board Management Committee for 2020 and 2021. And this has so much to do with the future and the leadership of the museum. So the first thing we will report to you is the officers of the advisory board for the coming year, and they will continue for another year. They are Stephen Heymsfield, Chair, Nancy Doherty, Vice Chair, John Everett, Secretary Treasurer, and Brian Schneider, immediate past Chair of the board. Thank you all for agreeing to serve and for your continued leadership. I'd also like to tell you the names of the other names of the members of the Nominations Committee. I meant to tell you that first. Sandy Arst, George Bonvillain, Donna Fresh, Elizabeth Noland, Beth Fuller, Dr. Joyce Jackson, Mary Joseph, and then our museum staff liaisons, Daniel Stetson, Nedra Haynes, and of course our board chair, Heymsfield. We will be bringing on one new member of the advisory board this year. We had only one opening for a first 3-year term, and we're delighted to welcome Dr. Derek J. Rivera, Sr. He was elected by the board at the May meeting, and I'll provide a short introduction for you to him, and hopefully you will get to know him as soon as possible. Dr. Rivera serves as the LSU Vice Provost for Diversity. He is the Chief Diversity Officer in the LSU Office of Diversity. And that office is a division of the Office of Academic Affairs, which provides support, referral, and information to students, faculty, and staff on issues and concerns related to diversity and inclusion. You know, it's fascinating. I'd tell you just a tiny bit about Dr. Rivera. There's so much to relate. We don't have time for that. But he had a triple major in psychology, human development, family life, and crime and delinquency studies when he earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Kansas. And then he went on to serve as assistant dean of the graduate school at Xavier. And he earned his doctorate at the University of Illinois. And he also attended the Management Development Program at Harvard University. So he comes with a distinguished experience and vita, and we look so forward to getting to know you, Dr. Riveros, and very grateful that you will be serving on the board. So thank you. Now I will turn to my co-chair, Nancy Doherty, for the rest of the report we're sharing.
Nancy, can you hear us?
Well, so I will continue the report. Finishing a first-year term and elected to a first three-year term is Carol Steinmuller. And the second term trustees are Nancy Doherty, Joyce Jackson, Mary Joseph, and Carrie Siraj. So thank you all for your generosity, time, and leadership. And this takes us into the future of the museum. So on behalf of Nancy and myself and the Nominations Board Management Committee, we are pleased to present this report to you. Thank you.
I want to thank our committee and other chairs, beginning with Ben Jeffers, who's the chair of the Collections Committee. Has done a great job. Our collection has expanded substantially. We've gotten a number of very impressive gifts over the last year. I want to thank Sandy Orris, who's the chair of the Development Committee, done a great job. Of course, John Everett, who you've heard already today, who's chair of the Finance Committee. And finally, Margaret Benjamin, who you just heard, and Nancy Doherty, who are the Nominations and Board Management Committee co-chairs. Thanks to all of you. Done a great job this year. I only wish we could be together tonight and enjoying our social company, but we can't be. So I'd like to now turn over program to Daniel Stetson, our executive director, and he's going to reflect on the past year for us. Daniel.
Thank you, Stephen. And Nedra will have to manage this slideshow for me. So we will do our best. There will be a shared screen and hopefully you can see it. And Nedra, when you can, put that up.
Is it showing?
I see it. Does everybody else see it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. You can go ahead and just move on to the next. Wish I could help you do that, but I can't. There we go. This is the annual report. There's a lot of images you see on this screen. One of them I'm going to point out because it's a detail you wouldn't necessarily notice, but the one at the top with the Andy Warhol Campbell soup can, the young person who's in our gallery is a very recent shot because they're actually wearing a COVID-19 mask. I want to thank our staff specifically and most importantly for what they've been doing all year long, but also during this very difficult period. They've been keeping the museum open, and there's Grant in the picture right next to it. He's been keeping programs out in the world. Courtney's been keeping exhibitions up. Our board members have been very active, and this slide just kind of is a good overview. If you would move to the next. Mission and vision. I just want to remind people that we have, I think, an interesting and very just simple mission. It's really to enrich and inspire and be a cultural intellectual resource. I think about enriching and inspiring, and you see people here, they're learning by looking and doing. Often we learn by listening at the museum, and these images give you a sense of that activity from the floor to the wall, to conservators preparing the work for exhibition. Staff and our activities are very big. Next, please. The impact is, I think, at times impossible to measure. There's one person that said, how do you measure the impact of nonprofits? Is through changed lives. And very often the impact is not necessarily seen by staff or by you all. But with a set of photos like this, you see a great deal of things. A list of different aspects of givers and donors. Our organization is survived really because the donors, the director circle, our members, our community partners are vast. There's Mayor Broom. We're partnering with the city on many programs. The board members, honorary people, the over 70 community partners you'll see. This year, we've been very much impacted by financial goods and charity, true philanthropy in this community. Our Director's Excellence Support Fund is over 7,000. Our exhibition fund was around 40,000. The Art Support Fund was around 67,000. You know, the museum opened up very quickly, the Living with Art exhibit that you see us gathered around that marvelous piece on loan from Carrie Siraj. And we closed, that opened on the 5th and we closed 10 days later. And we reopened on May the 20th, and we continue to be open on Tuesdays through Saturdays. And we hope by September 1, we'll be back to our normal hours. As Steve said, we're a very safe place to go. I would encourage you to find some time to take your family there. Just get out of the house. We're all getting trapped. It's a good experience, and so many new things have happened there. Let's go to the next slide, please. This is some of our numbers, and I'm just going to talk about the first one you see of 22,937 visitors and participants and programs. I wanted you to know a fact that we actually researched, did a little work on, that at the end of February, the first 8 months of the fiscal year, our visitation was up around 41.5% over what we had done the previous year. The next 4 months saw a dramatic decline, with about 2 months of it being closed. And then even our return has been slow. We ended the fiscal year about 25% less than the prior year. One of the ones I'll point out is Baton Rouge gets a great many riverboats. You see over 5,000 visitors. We're associated with the museum through that tourist experience. Well, there has been over 60 boat dockings that have been canceled in the last several months in Baton Rouge. They have greatly distressed a lot of our cultural organizations in the city. But we also act as ambassador to people from the world. I have met people from Scotland and France and from China in our gift shop and in our galleries. And it's been a hard road to hoe, as they say, while we're waiting for that return. But know that we're there for you. We're there for our community. Students, and we're looking for the students in just a couple of weeks now coming back to campus and working with our faculty. There's a lot more that we're doing that we'll talk about as we move through this. We can go to the next one, please. This one gives you a little bit more closer in. I will tell you that our memberships have declined some in this period, and we have great respect for that, because this has been a tough time and so many people are unemployed and in the midst of family turmoil with illness and others. And we're working diligently on that area. But I want to thank those of you that have continued to be members, and Stephen used the word sustainability. It is one of our goals, as you can imagine. We have very much tightened our boat, if you will, financially, and our activities. We're being very cautious with the dollars that are shared with us and are put in our trust, and we appreciate it a great deal. You can see we get a lot of visitors to our receptions and special events. We had a great number of rentals. Of course, our rentals and special events for the time being have had to be put on pause. We don't know yet how we might do receptions. We're actually talking about an exhibition opening up in September that we'll hear about a little later. And instead of having an opening reception, we're going to have it open for viewing and encourage people to come, and then later have a virtual artist talk about the work. I think it's wonderful to do. If you've not been part of our virtual programs, I encourage you to learn more and actually attend them. They're a wonderful leisure time. You can sit there with your iced tea or your cocktail and just enjoy your time. You can also see that 47,000 unique visitors to our website. I think one of the upsides of this difficult period is the fact that we've learned how to use Zoom and communicate and be in rooms with each other like we are tonight. But also our Facebook page, our Instagram pages, our website itself is become very, very active, and more people have learned to use our resources. There are recordings of some of the artist talks you can go on our website to see. Our Art Talk newsletters are available there. There's a great deal of works from our art collection now available. And as you can see, already almost 9,000 followers on Facebook and Instagram. So if you're not one of the folks involved with all those, I hope you'll consider and use it as a way to expand your mind, if you will, your cultural undertaking, and to connect. The next slide, please. In the galleries this year, there was some spectacular exhibits. When you think about the ground we've covered, from Asia to Latin America to contemporary jewelry, the LC Mishi collection was a very rare and special opportunity. A semblance that was with artists of fluid gender, and it really dealt a lot with the private and the public and the shared self in a very unique way with artists that came. The kind of expanse of what you're able to witness, we're really a bridge to cultures and a bridge to difference. And it's a way for you to understand others and to build knowledge and experience in a way that is without risk, and frankly is, I think, a beautiful way to engage. We're very happy with all this. And you can see that Adore, Adorn, and Semblance had about 7,500 visitors, and Destination Latin America had about 10,000. So very big part of the success of our year. Next, please. This one shows you the programming. We're going to show you exhibits and then programmings. And Adore, Adorn, one of our biggest attended things was actually when Elsie Mishi herself did a gallery talk throughout the space. She also did a separate talk about contemporary jewelry. She is a wonderful person and is indeed Dr. Elsie Mishi is the Associate Dean at College of Humanities and Social Sciences. And it was one of those fortuitous moments. I met her at a line as we were getting some food on campus, and I commented on this wonderful brooch that she was wearing, and she told me she had a collection and we needed to come see it, and she was very generous in lending it. We also had a workshop with internationally noted jeweler Thomas Mann, who's Louisiana's own out of New Orleans, and Nedra, our development director today, is actually wearing earrings and a necklace from Thomas, and he is for sale in our gift shop. So you're able to come in and actually do hands-on art making in jewelry. A Semblance, we had two of the artists come from various locations, actually from across the country, come in and talk. We also, when we have artists come in, they went and actually, Duran, excuse me, he met with 8 of our MFA students individually to talk to them as a professional and successful artist. With Destination Latin America, we did a lot of things. I love the tire making, the paper making, and things that we did. We also had Nicolas de Jesus, and if we go to the next one, Nedra, please. This is pictures of Jesus. And Nicolas did a wonderful series of works. He did activities in our galleries. He did them in the community. He did them on campus. It was an opportunity to work with a master, an international master. We had students act as interpreters for us, as his prominent language was Spanish. He could also speak English, but he preferred the other, and we used students as interpreters. It was a wonderful way of doing this, to have a first free Sunday where he had a talk and a demonstration in the galleries with a crowd of people. He went out to a neighborhood art site at the Gardier Initiative and actually met with that community of youth and shared his talents. It's unusual, but this in fact was the Museum of Art, through a special grant from the Greater Baton Rouge Arts Council. We're able to bring in this diverse talent to share. And I just wanted you to see that sometimes you're not involved in these aspects, and you in your support helps us to serve thousands and thousands of other peoples in and outside of our building in very special ways. Next, please. 3 more exhibitions that were, I think, both well received and important for us. The Gods and Things Asian Art from the Permanent Collection was curated by Dr. William Ma. He's an art history faculty member working with our collection. And it was a spectacular show. As I said, you could go from Asia to Latin America to contemporary America in terms of style of art, period, and materials. It was an exceptional show that Dr. Ma put together, working with our staff. I commend the curatorial department and the installation work they do in all of our projects. One in the middle, Living with Art, again, opened up on March the 5th. The museum closed on the 10th. And then we reopened in May. All of the lenders, 9 local lenders, have agreed to extend this show to September 27th. And please, if you haven't been, go enjoy this, because the variety and quality of materials that were shared are extensive, and we're very, very fortunate. From Southern outsider, self-taught visionary artists to contemporary 20th century New Orleans masters to German expressionists of the 20th century to Tiffany glass and desk sets. It's a very wonderful and unique project. Conspicuous, Satirical Works by Carolyn Duryea, is a show from our collections organized around her satirical works that are humorous and entertaining in a way, but also very pointed at times. And our curatorial staff did an amazing job. It closes on August 30th. So if you haven't seen it, because it actually was installed and open, really getting ready during this pandemic period, but it has now since May 20th been open for viewing and will be open until August 30th. Carolyn was one of our major faculty members, incredibly well-noted American modernist and important printmaker, as well as an LSU faculty member. So I hope you'll get a chance to see that. Next, please. This example of some of the projects. There's Dr. Ma actually touring some students through the gallery. He also did a public tour through the galleries. He did a lecture. We had a cooking demo with Tsunami. We had LSU ceramic students come and make sake cups that you could purchase and hands-on make your own. We had Living with Art. We had an opening reception, which was quite wonderful. But we also have done virtual programs with Jerry Seppos, who's one of the collectors who was lent with the exhibition. We did it recently, one with Arthur Roger, a gallery dealer, probably the most prominent contemporary gallery dealer in New Orleans, and Neil Alford, who is with the Neil Auction House. And we talked about navigating the art market. And many of the talks like that one are actually archived and on our website. And then with Conspicuous, we actually had a curator talk, an educator demo, where Grant Benoit, our educator, shared how to make a lithograph, while Courtney also did a presentation about Carolyn's work. We also have a wall that has now 4 works that were done by community artists that are up on the wall. That wall that's got this diagonal pink line. We would have had more of that, and you would have had an opportunity to participate too if we had been open. But you can go see what is there now, and they're both pretty wonderful shows. Next, please. I never want to discount or fail to remind you really about the 2/3 of our gallery spaces that are devoted to our permanent collection. It is Art in Louisiana Galleries, and those spaces change a great deal. And I would just encourage you to come visit. The Landscape Gallery has been completely reinstalled and really deals with artwork from the 19th, early 20th century through to today, dealing with environmental issues. And the What We Wear Gallery actually closes this Sunday, and it's about to be reinstalled, our family gallery, around the theme of pattern from our permanent collection. It's exciting to go through there and realize the wonderful pieces that are donated to us, purchased, and made available to the public. And the galleries change regularly. Our curator, Courtney Taylor, working with the full curatorial department staff, does an exceptional job. Stands up and measures against any great museum in the world. Next, please. This is a couple of shots just from the intro gallery. The one on the left is a new wall that is hung, and those are 2 photographs stacked by Jonathan Bachman of some of the difficulties that Baton Rouge has encountered in terms of social unrest and race relations. Those were photographs that were taken with Alton Sterling death here in our community. The middle one's a painting from the 19th century, and it is of the battle for the Civil War just upriver from here. And next to it is the photo you see on the right by David Halliday. That is of a recreation, of the slave revolt here in Louisiana that was recently done. His photographs appeared in Vanity Fair in an article talking about Dred Scott's performance piece. And we're very lucky that 2 of those photographs have been generously given to us and really expand our holdings in portraiture, but also tell us a story about history and reference, I think, the moment that we are in. Next, please. 3 exhibitions that I hope you all remember seeing: the Carrie Mae Weems, The Usual Suspects, Painting Enlightenment, Experiencing Wisdom and Compassion Through Art and Science, and Max Wadel, On the Verge. Those 3 exhibitions were organized and are traveling under the auspices of this museum. And the Carrie Mae Weems was at the Jordan Schnitzer Museum and actually was seen by about 1,360 people. And they ended up having to close it during COVID-19. But in a short period, they were very active. In fact, there was a virtual tour through that show. Painting Enlightenment appeared at DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana, and it had over 1,000 visitors there. And the Max Wadel show went to Wichita Falls Museum of Art in Texas at Midwestern State University, and you can see over 1,100. That, when you think about our numbers of impact locally, our visitation, that's another 3,500 individuals that were able to do this. Are able to see and experience projects that represent the LSU Museum of Art and LSU in the great work that we do. And I will say that we're lucky to have these, and they actually generate some income towards the staffing of our museum. Next, please. Another thing we do extensively is lend works to other museums. We lent 3 pieces to the Frank Hayden exhibition, which is at the Louisiana Art and Science Museum, and I would encourage you to go see the exhibit. It is very powerful. Lift Every Voice, dealing with a certain kind of body of his work. And that show has been extended all the way through December now. We lent some major 19th century paintings to an exhibit called Inventing Arcadia. at the New Orleans Museum of Art. And one of our paintings was actually on the cover of the catalog. The Matt Wadle piece that was in the exhibit was donated to us by the artist and returned to us. And then Fusion, the Mighty Mississippi at the Clinton Library has recently been extended. We have 2 Clementine Hunter pieces in that project. So you can see a variety of work are getting around the state and the country and sharing the value of our loans in terms of scholarship and in terms of public display. Next, please. This is a collections update just to give you a sense of things that in recent times here, we have over 1,100 objects are now on the database that are online. So you can go to our website and search and see images and information about objects from our collection. We continue to advance that. We're actually at work now on the photography selections to try to bring them up. I think almost all of the Newcomb work are up, for instance. We also are very active in acquiring artwork. There were 5 major museum purchases this year. A piece by Robin Levy, a photograph by Gordon Parks, Radcliffe Bailey, sizable mixed media painting, and Tina Freeman's Lamentation photograph that you see here, this diptych, that was actually made possible by Bob and Linda Bowser, who are in the photograph to the right. And I'll talk about that in a second. And in total, over 136 works of art were given this year by artists and others, and some are still in process by the campus, but our collection continues to grow in a large way, in significant ways. We're really excited about that as we build this resource for scholarship and for exhibition. Next. These are 3 of the significant works that were acquired this year, and they represent a focus on underrepresented artists, women artists and artists of color and others that the museum has in its adoption of its collection policy and its collection plan. This has been a targeted area. We, by gift, acquire a lot of works, but with our limited resources for acquisition and purchase that we do, we actually seek out this area to broaden our collection in a way that's very necessary. The first one by Malika Favorite, we actually did a visit to her studio where we first saw this piece, and both board members, well, Beverly and Stephen Heymsfield and Salomia and Ben Jeffers helped to make this purchase possible, Lessons from My Mother. The middle photograph by Gordon Parks, probably one of the most significant African-American photographers, Black photographers in our country's history. This piece from 1956 is a magnificent work that just was acquired. And then the Radcliffe Bailey, made possible by Winifred and Kevin Riley, has not yet been able to be put on display, but it is about 8 feet tall, and it is the most important masterful piece that I look forward to you all seeing. But I wanted you all to know that this is an area of pursuit to expand the reach, the cultural diversity, and the purpose of our collection. Next, please. This is about our Artworks program, and Artworks, it starts out at the year for 8 months. It was working with the school systems. It's a tour program. Students spend 90 minutes at the museum. They tour, they do hands-on art making. But then you start to see the photograph all the way to the right on the top row is the beginning of the making of bags, packets, that were then distributed. The bottom row photo on the right, that is our educator, Grant Benoit, at a food distribution site at one of the schools, distributing these art bags. These were really trying to keep curriculum activities and things for students and family members. So we distributed 653 of them that were non-artwork affiliation, and then another 606 activity bags were distributed with COVID-19 outreach. We had, before that, 715 pre-K students visited throughout the year during these hands-on activities. So what we did here was ramp up in a very real way, and I give Grant and many of the staff members so much credit for the incredible time it takes to put these together, but the necessity of helping out families and students during this difficult time is part of our mission. We are a bridge between the campus and the community. Next, please. Young Artist Gallery, I hope some of you have seen it. The self-portraits was up first, and it was a couple hundred self-portraits where students had come into our galleries and looked at our portraits and learned about portraiture. They then made these paintings, and we put little gold frames on them, and it hung. The totem project was inspired by the Latin American exhibition. There were some totems in that show, and it actually still is currently up on the walls. But that was one that was through the depth of understanding and the variety of activities that the Latin American exhibition, the Destination Latin America show, allowed us to really expand the awareness and expose people to works that had not been seen. In this case, young students. We start from pre-K and go all the way to 5th grade, and now we're diligently also working with middle school and high schoolers. Next, please. This shows you some of the activities we have. The top left drawing I like, I just want to mention it for a second. That was your junk drawer drawing, and we did a project where we encouraged people to pull stuff out of a drawer, trace it, color it, and work with it, and build something out of it. There's an example from that. The next one shows you the kind of Day of the Dead and some of the kits that we made when we had the Latin American show. You know, I won't go through every picture, but this shows you the hands-on activities, the kind of work, the activity bags that our education department does. That's fine, Nedra. You just went too far, 3 ahead, I think. Can you go back? There we go. One more, forward.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's fine. This is hard. I appreciate all the work you're doing. This just lists you some of the initiatives we do with our tours through the schools, public schools, and for LSU. We've done professional development workshops now for the last 3 years with the art teachers from the public school system. We did a major event for Martin Luther King Day. We also were out for the Unity Family Picnic on Juneteenth out in the plaza area and stuff in downtown, where we gave out some of the kits that we had, as well as did hands-on art making. You can see some of that going on in particularly the lower right picture in that case. So even as we've gone through these changes, we continue to be very active and very visible and helpful, I hope. Next, please. This just lists all the things, you know, we do free first Sundays, free Friday nights, figure drawing Fridays, yoga in the galleries, third Thursdays, stories in art, studio visits, receptions, Art and Alzheimer's tours. Your support allows us to serve so many people, and some of these things I hope some of you that are listening tonight have enjoyed. It's a lot of fun. Thank you. And next. This one, you know, we had to do a very quick turnabout, as the whole country and world has, with the COVID-19 response. One of them has been to really establish a social media presence and be more active. Our social media reach has gone over 40,000. Our engagements average more than 2,000. You can see the dates Monday through Saturday up there that show, or through Sunday, excuse me, some of the things or areas we've covered our collections and happy hours and collection finds and staff picks. It's been a lot of fun to participate, and certainly while we're trapped in our homes, it's been a way out. I do want to tell you about one photo. I think this is the only place it shows up, but the photo to the farthest right, the top one, that's me wearing a mask, and I'm with 2 nurses at the Baton Rouge hospital. And the nurse on the left actually has a box that's full of gloves. Our curatorial staff was kind enough to let us take gloves. I can't remember how many hundreds we took, but we took a number of them that we had in inventory. When there was a crisis by frontline essential workers, we actually gave away a number of our gloves to the staff of the hospital. And then the other one has a box of popcorn. My wife and I have continued to bring surprise gifts to the emergency department, pizzas and popcorn and other things and candy, just as they continue to risk their lives for all of us. And I want to just say thank you to all of the frontline emergency workers and the essential workers out there. Done a lot for us. And our communications director or coordinator, Sarah Amaker, has done a spectacular job in this work. Next, please. This takes you to what's coming. Letitia Huckabee's This Same Dusty Road is a brand new project that has just been worked on during this COVID period. Letitia is Louisiana raised, Texas living, and she does these photographic story quilts in some ways that are particularly wonderful. This is a series. Courtney Taylor is curating this, and I'm excited for it. It'll open in September and run through March. This is one where we will probably have a virtual artist talk, but we do hope to get Letitia here at some point, depending how circumstances and CDC rules go about. And paired with it, but starting a little later in October, is Southbound, Photographs of and About the New South. These 2 shows paired, I think, become very critical to us. And I know Letitia and Courtney are working to do some of the Southbound photographs as interventions within our other galleries. Things like this portrait of a young man manned up in our portrait gallery. It's a very large exhibit of over 50 photographers, and it's all work done in the 2000s. So it's very recent photography, looking at the the South and the New South and who we are. The artist seating, some of you may remember, we had promoted that. That was going to be a major exhibit this spring at the museum, covering 200 years of American design. We're actually going to supplement it with some furniture from our collections that'll actually take it back a little further, a few pieces. But it's going to be an exciting show. We had to postpone it and move it as part of our very careful budget management, even last year and into this year that we're coming. But I know it's going to be a very fun show for us to see. And I hope you all come to see all three of these. Next, please. You know, this is something that I just wanted to talk about just for a moment, but here is 4 key areas and goals for us this year. It's critical with everything going on in the country, on our campus, around the world. There is now an LSU diversity inclusion roadmap. A while ago, Dr. Riveras was introduced as a new board member. He was the chair of the committee across campus that did this. And it really is to state that diversity is a core institutional value for LSU, and I want to say it is for the LSU Museum of Art. It's a diversity of every work of art, every voice that makes them. We are prioritizing diversity, equity, access, and inclusion. That is a national effort that is involved with the American Alliance of Museums, where we as a staff are going to be pursuing education training with the Dialogue on Race Louisiana. We also, just this past 2 weeks, we've been accepted in a national program called Of, By, For All, and the Change Network that represents. There'll be a year-long activity where we're going to work, and even in the next one it talks about bridging differences, about developing a community engagement council. It will be one of the projects of that effort. We're very excited. We are the first museum in Louisiana to join the Of, By, and For All and Change Network. We're very excited to be part of a cohort starting in September. We'll continue to reinterpret our exhibition spaces, collections, and installations to add community voices, to diversify the aspects and the ways of seeing, viewing, thinking, and learning. And again, we're a safe space for this, a safe space for you to be challenged, to be satisfied, to grow. And then most importantly, and as it was described, ensure our sustainability. We need to continue to grow membership, and we hope that you'll continue to support us and consider gift memberships and bring more to the fold. Our annual fund campaign exceeded our goal this past year. Thank you so much, all of you who were involved. We are part of the Fierce for the Future campaign for our campus, working with money that is flexible primarily to be sustainable, but also some capital projects the museum is working on for enhanced education spaces. You'll hear more about those at other times. And then we're applying our marketing efforts to diversify, build both our audience and our support. So I wanted to give you that sense of looking ahead, the kind of goals this year. And I would actually say these represent values of our museum. Next, please. This just gives you a sense, again, of the nature of our spaces and our activities, from George Rodriguez' Louisiana Cajun landscapes on the right, to a photograph below of Hunt Sloanum's Wall of Rabbits, to a young child in one of our outreach painting, to a gallery talk by Martin and Courtney about his work, to a reception for Adore Adorn with some of the collectors and sponsors, to people in the gallery enjoying and looking at works. We're a very active place for you and for others. Next slide, please. This one of the fun things, and I don't know whether you see on the screen, me or that short, we produced some nice materials for our 15th anniversary, and Stephen did a tremendous job, I think, of bringing you to this moment. But the contemporary, your LSU Museum of Art in the Shaw Center for the Arts is very active, proud of where we are, and are hoping to lead a wonderful place. And there's Leanne in our store. I want to give Leanne particularly a shout out. She's the one that's been keeping us open since we reopened. And it is very hard work, and she deserves our applause. But she's also kept our store going. When we were closed at one point, we did sales online. They could view and then call and make it, and we'd ship it. She sold stuff to people all the way in New York that bought from our store. And I don't imagine they're on this call, but I want to thank them for helping to support us. And again, all the different galleries. And there's George Bonvillain with his portrait that he had made by Brad Burgoyne, one of our Friends board members, at our opening reception. There's a lot of activities, and you too can be part and enjoy that. And next slide, please. Just to remind you that currently on view is the Carolyn Dureau and the Living with Art and Art in Louisiana that continues to change. They are significant activities and programs that you should enjoy. And I guess what I'll do here, Nedra, is we could take a minute if anybody wants to raise their hand or put in the chat box a question or anything, and then I'll turn it over to Stephen to adjourn the formal meetings, and we'll do that in that order. Thank you very much.
Able to unmute themselves.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel. I want to emphasize your comments about sustainability, membership, and particularly supporting the store. Those are all really important activities that continue to support the museum. But I did have a specific question. Do you see what's happened with the pandemic as having any kind of permanent changes for museums like ours?
It's a very good question, Steve. I can tell you that I am on a lot of conference calls with museum directors of all size museums from all the states in this country, and all of us are asking some of the same questions. I do believe there is significant change. One of the things that's great about museums, we have a lot of square footage, and so you can have safe visits and you can experience it with your eyes. You don't have to touch, so we have an advantage that way. But the social gatherings, I think there has been a change. I know some openings have done social gatherings, some museums, but the way they've been doing them are sometimes timed entry with limited numbers. It's usually a box of wine or a can of soda, sometimes no food. I think there's going to be, at least in this near term, significant changes of necessity. I hope that we return to it because museums as social spaces, it's one of its biggest uses, I think. So we'll get back to it. But yes, there are some changes, certainly on the short term, and that short term could be for the next year. But I also think that we are lucky to have original works from cultures and times across the millennia for people to experience with their eyes in safe environments. And frankly, in this Louisiana heat, you can also come chill out in the museum because our air conditioning is always on.
Great. Does anybody have any other questions?
For the onward, Sophie.
Steve, this is Jerry. I had a quick question for Daniel.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hi, Daniel. Yeah,
Hi,
I
Jerry.
wondered, you alluded to this, but I wondered what is attendance like these days?
Well, attendance is very low, Jerry, at this point. It's picked up some days. If we get 20 people in a day, it's pretty good attendance. But we're not getting the hundreds of people a day from the boat tours. We're not getting the hands-on tours when we had before school is out, when we get hundreds of students through, both for LSU and for the public school system. So those are down. The summer months sometimes slow down a little bit anyways, but frankly, the tourist capacity during some of that time, certainly March, April, May, we lost thousands of visitors. I can tell you that for a part of May, we would have had a couple thousand visitors in a time period that we probably had more like 60 or 70. So it's been a dramatic drop off. I think people are still not used to going out and frankly, sheltering at home, washing your hands, wearing a mask. We have stations so that you can sterilize your hands. You have to wear a mask to come into our building. Only 2 people to an elevator unless you're a family. We've done everything we can to when you get to the galleries. We've also created a directional pathing through the museum so that you don't overlap, so you can actually see the entire collections. So we've done all the stuff on site that makes it very, very safe. And I hope with people hearing me today that they'll actually decide that, that'd be a good thing to do and a good way to spend my time this weekend or tomorrow. So, we have had a decrease and I hope that it picks back up as people get more comfortable. Certainly, we are safer than almost any place I think you can consider now going to.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Your question? Okay, Daniel, I want to thank you for that excellent overview. And I want to end by thanking the staff who's done an amazing job. You see the depth and breadth of this presentation. It's very impressive, particularly the curatorial staff, development staff, administration. Museum really has a very small staff given how much work you've seen today. I also want to thank the students and the interns who have made some of this happen, and our board members, general members, and the public who have supported the museum.
Even I suppose that we can adjourn the meeting and encourage people to go celebrate in their homes the good work of the museum, and with a thank you and a hearty welcome from the museum.
Great. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dan.
everyone.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank-
Have a good
Great
evening.
meeting.
Night.
Great meeting.